Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Motivational speaker, the comeback coach, and goal crusher Joe Rivera brings you inspiring leaders, incredible stories, and valuable lessons on how you can change, grow, and reforge your life. Now, here's your host, Joe Rivera.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Reforge Your Life Show. I'm your host, Joe Rivera. And here at the Reforge Your Life Show, we love to show you that the comeback is more than possible. And today, I'm super excited about the guest I'm bringing on. She's a business coach, a speaker of Realize Your Vision is the name of the business. Y'all are going to love her energy. Sheila Andrews, welcome to the show.
Hey, Joe, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm grateful that you were able to come through, man. I'm grateful that we have this platform to share and to create impact out there.
Absolutely.
I've heard your story, but there's no way, Sheila, that I could tell it anywhere close to as good as you can. So I'd love for you to share your story and strengthen hope with the audience.
I hope that this impacts people too. I think sometimes we have this purpose. We don't realize the impact we can make in our purpose and in our story. So I really am grateful for platforms like this. What I really want to share with the world is that we get stuck in life, I think, more often than we realize or are willing to admit. And when I look back at my journey, this thing of stuck really, it's an underlying theme in my life. But I realize I think it's a part of our life journey because we're meant to constantly learn and grow in this journey called life. I happen to be a coach for entrepreneurs. And so I really believe that when you're called down a path to become a business owner, then that entrepreneurial journey becomes part of your life journey. So in my life journey, I want to probably share, like, right when I got out of college, I decided to work for a small business owner and pretty much dedicated about 20 years of my life to him in helping him turn his vision. And every entrepreneur is a visionary, turn his vision into a reality. So I got to experience a lot of things in business that was necessary for it to succeed. And earlier in the career, he had given me part of the company. And so I played this kind of quasi business owner role. And I was young, just kind of dived into it and tackled anything that was, put in front of me. Fast forward 20 years later, I found myself at a place where I needed to leave that because it just wasn't where I was meant to be. But there was a calling in my heart, I think, I don't even remember if it was 11, 12 years, 13 years later. There was just this calling in my heart for more. And the truth of it is I never responded to it because I was scared, but I didn't really know I was scared. You have these feelings and emotions, you try to deny it. But the deep inner sense and knowing that you have and that fear, looking back, I can realize I was doing anything I can to avoid it. But fast forward 20 years, 2 decades of, just giving my time and energy to this company. I found myself at a crossroad and it was undeniable that it was time for me to go. And so when I look back, what I want to share is this. I think that we are all meant to do great things. And when we're not aligned in our path of purpose, whatever that looks like, there's going to be this constant longing and desire for more until we align with it. So I think I was called for a different path a lot earlier in my life. And I just said no, denied it, avoided it until I couldn't anymore. So after, 20 years, I had found myself at a crossroad and I made a bold decision to become an entrepreneur. And I thought, well, if I can help that business owner succeed in what I've contributed and all that I've learned and experienced, I should be able to do this for myself. Let me tell you, heck no. I was stuck and there's different levels of stuck, but the stuck I want to talk about are the multiple times I hit that sense of feeling I was in such a deep abyss, or my back was pinned to the wall and there was nowhere to go except forward and to face whatever it was that was getting in my way. But those moments, I just remember thinking, I don't know why anybody wants to start a freaking business because this sucks. It was horrible. You felt lost, even though we're taking action. I'm taking action. Felt like I knew what I was doing. It just never felt aligned. It never felt good in my mind, my heart, my soul. And so that opened the path in my journey to discover that there was more to this than what I had thought when it came to building a successful business. And I think what I wanted to share on that specific note is, or what I'm touching on is the fact that we need to change. So there's tactics, strategies, and how to build a business, and they're so important. But for me, it wasn't so much about doing, but really about who I was showing up and who I was being. So the journey started to unfold, and really I discovered aspects about it that I feel at this time in in business and how the world is. I think it's so important for every entrepreneur to know this, because had somebody told me what I said yes to, I think it may have accelerated my progress to really becoming more aware about the changes and the discovery I needed to do or discover about myself. So really what I'm touching on is, sometimes we sit here and we think we know ourselves, but there's so much about ourselves that we don't know. And that in itself is an adventure, and I think a big part of the journey.
Thank you for sharing that. And there's a lot to unpack there, but I kind of want to touch on something because we're gonna definitely dive into the challenges that you went through this journey.
Yeah.
Uh, but you mentioned something that's so powerful that I want to make sure that the audience picks up on.
Okay.
You said that you were focused on what you were doing rather than who you were being at one point. And
Yes.
there's such a big difference in that, in, you know, what you're doing and then who you're being, and in what ways of being did you become, right? So can you share that with the audience, what you were doing at the time when it wasn't working, and then you realized, man, you know what, it's about a way of being and what that way of being was.
I don't know why I'm smiling so big right now, Joe.
I feel the cheese. I love it. I love it.
I know. It's just because
Love
I
it.
feel like where you're taking this is so powerful. And I think what brings me joy is the fact that you recognize the value in being.
Mm,
And I don't say this again to hopefully not offend anybody out there, especially those who focus on tactics and what to do. But I'll tell you, strategy, it will never trump who you're being.
mm,
And many times people, or actually in the industry, many people will pull that under the umbrella of leadership, especially in your space of entrepreneurship or career, but it's really about personal development. But I believe that the journey, it's hand in hand. So what I wanted to share before I touch on the being was in my own personal experience about what I needed to do to figure out what's getting in the way. Why don't I feel aligned? How come I don't feel good in my own skin? I'm doing all this work and yet I know what I'm doing, but I still feel lost. There is something really honest and true about that. And that's a space where I think we get really scared to navigate or to step into, because what is this all about? And it really boiled down to that. Who am I being? Why is it that I don't feel good about this? In one moment, I'm confident, and in another, it's like it feels like glass where it just got shattered, and I'm
mm,
second guessing myself. What is that all about? And what I discovered in the journey, and which I want everybody to know, is that, especially if you're an entrepreneur, but this is applicable to life in general, I believe. But it's when we talk about journey, everybody's talking about a journey, but what does it really mean? What does a journey really mean? And to me, it means change. Think about it. When we were small, I mean, when we were born, we had to learn to eat, right? Feed ourselves, clothe ourselves. We had to learn to walk, read, write. We're adults now. Does it stop? No, I think the learning and growth changes. The other part to it is it's this journey of discovery. I had to go down this road of discovering myself in ways that I could not imagine. And I did not even understand the true impact and value it has. But it plays, I'm telling you, a big part in the success that you desire. And whatever that success means to you, I know many times we talk about success as making millions or how much money we can make, but I believe that once we get past some of the material things, a lot of people, what they truly desire when it comes to success is that natural peace, that joy. I can even say success is knowing what makes you tick, and when certain things trigger you that get in the way, how do you go and overcome that? So this journey of change, this journey of discovery also turned into a journey of love, because as I allowed myself to be open to change and the learning and growth, I started to discover things about myself. They were hard truths, but I'll tell you, it would start with heartbreak and it would end with so much gratitude and the willingness to see this through, because I knew that it was going to change me to become a greater and better version of myself. And along the way, I realized I had to learn a different way to love. And we all know what love is. We all think we know how to love. But when you start to stay open and committed to your success, you'll be surprised as the band-aids that get ripped off of your eyes. The realization that there's things that have been blinding you. Maybe it's been limiting your vision and how you see things and experience it. And those starts to shut off. Those starts to open up or expand. And it builds on awareness. And to me, awareness is a catalyst to change. So imagine the more I got aware, the more that I was placed in an opportunity and a decision to make put in a position to make a decision for myself. Now that I am aware of what it is that's going on, do you want to remain the same, or do you want to do something to change your reality, circumstances, or whatnot, or how you feel or how you think for the better? And in that discovery and place, I realized it's not about doing for me, but it was about self-confidence. I lost a sense of worthiness. Maybe deep down inside, I've had this sense of unworthiness, but I never knew the depth of it. I lost
Yeah.
my sense of value when I had left the company, because loss, we all experience loss. I never even realized that leaving a job would be like a loss and that we could go through some process of grief. I didn't even know I was grieving when I was grieving.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
these things that seem so obvious, but when it's there and you don't decide or choose to want to have eyes to really see, to want to have a heart to really know, and a mind to understand clearly, we start moving down a path where we just don't know what we don't know. And so when we start to hit those moments that feel really hard or challenging, especially to do things that we've never done before, like in business, there's so many things that we have to do that we've never done before. Um, we just get triggered. We just get triggered.
No, absolutely. And I'm curious, right? Because when there's ways of being that can create anabolic energy in our life, and there's ways of being that create the catabolic draining energy in our life, right?
Mm.
So when you had the feeling of unworthy and that self doubt that was coming up, what was some of the ways of being that you were in those moments that
Yeah.
brought that catabolic training energy?
Yeah, no, thank you for asking that because I did realize it would be really helpful for others to know what it might look like in terms of who I was being then and who I might be being now.
Yes.
So I've accomplished a lot actually in my career. But every time there was a win, I felt like I wanted to celebrate, but when it came down to celebrating, it always felt short lived. And I
Mm.
said, why? Because the next action item came on or a next project that needed to be tackled. I could use that as a reason, and it was absolutely valid in there. But there was also something inside of me that just, it's like I got elated, and all of a sudden there was this deep sadness, a
Yeah.
deep, deep sadness, and I didn't know why. And I'll touch on very briefly, it was part imposter syndrome. It was part of this deep sense of unworthiness. And because I didn't feel worthy of love or important, I didn't allow myself to receive celebration, which was feeling like an act of love. And deep down inside, I was sad, but I didn't even know why. I didn't even know why. Do you know that I did not even meet my ego until maybe a year and a half ago. She's a beast, okay? She's
Right.
brutal. She's a freaking diva. I've named her Shigo,
Yeah, I
the
love it.
Shigo. But
Love that.
the ego, it's the need to control, the need to look good, excuse me, the need to be right. Excuse me. I was in an industry. I work for a software development company. I was in an industry really predominated by men. And I did not know as a woman, I said, I want to be recognized for my intelligence and not looked at as a skirt. I didn't even realize deep down inside my need to be accepted, the codependence, the people pleasing tendencies because I wanted to belong. And because it was an environment where there was a lot of ego, well, it fed mine. Can I say I grew man balls? Can I say that? Or, is that okay?
I
I
love it.
grew some massive man balls. I did not even discover, fast forward till I want to say 30 years. Oh no, not that's too long. Let's say about close to 30 years starting from career. I think I just aged myself. Ugh. But close to 30 years that I realized that when my ego shigo shows up, I didn't like myself. I didn't like myself.
Right.
Um, and I was a control freak, fueled by perfectionism, you know, and it was completely draining. But I never acknowledged that. I was very much a highly aspired overachiever who loved to deliver quality and value, and I would do that, But there's a line between when it would serve you and when it didn't. And many times I would cross the over the line where it didn't serve me. It would drain me of my energy. It would beat me down, exhaust me, and burn me out. So these are the things I was talking about. And when you fast forward, deciding to start my own business, I brought all of those mental beliefs, how it made me feel, and behaviors to my business, and it sucked.
What did it cost you when you were doing that?
Oh, my time, my energy, my peace. I want to say my soul, because peace tied to my inner like being or soul, my joy. I was making decisions to serve other people's needs above my own, not knowing how to take care of myself, not knowing what it is that I needed. So we talk about self-care, we talk about self-love, but the self-love is not a vain thing. It's really just about recognizing that maybe you are important, that you are made for a specific purpose in the world, that you have a gift to share. And so, what can you do to take care of yourself when life takes its toll so that you could still show up 100, 150% for those that you are meant to serve? But you can't do that when you're on empty. And I promise you, who I was being was a person that lived on empty. And I just learned how to run on empty and to perform well and to do that. But deep down inside, I was dying, so that was a state of being. And this entrepreneurial journey allowed me to really get acutely aware of, what does change really mean? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What did I discover? Who am I? What did I discover about myself? Who am I? How does my mind think? How am I feeling about things? And how is it affecting my behavior and my actions, right? And what am I doing to lose my peace and my, that inner joy and so forth? And then moving forward to go, I was struggling to love, to even show myself kindness and compassion when I felt like I screwed up royally. So I'm sharing that in a nutshell. And you fast forward, I feel like I'm a more compassionate person. I think being able to do that for myself allows me to show so much more love, kindness, support, compassion to others. Understanding what really gets in the way and knowing how important it is that I'm willing to create a business around having those difficult conversations with people, to create this space where they could just feel the trust, the love, the safety to be exactly who they are, and where their courage and commitment gets nurtured, that they can go in and step into this place where they could talk about their fears. They could talk about the things that are imperfectly not going on in their lives, their feelings and emotions, to unpack it. And I feel like one of the most valuable, powerful things that I could do to serve others is to be this powerful reflection of truth about who you are and where you're at. And I think when people feel the trust, the love, the safety, and somebody's mirroring back to you things that maybe before you would deny, you would ignore, you would avoid, you would say, you dismiss it. No, that can't be me. Maybe now you could be in a place where you can receive it. And it's important to receive it because it's feeding a transformation, a growth for you to let go of those negative beliefs, the things that are dimming your light and holding you back, so that you could step forth and be this more powerful version of yourself that can give you the success that you desire. Doesn't that feel good?
Yeah, that's incredible. That's what it's all about. That transformation.
Yeah.
That's the magic, right? But I'm curious. Before the transformation, um, what was that turning point where, because change can be scary, right? I mean, it could scare the shit out of some people,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, honestly, I believe it scares everyone, right? But it's the ones who are able to face that fear and overcome that fear of change. That's where the magic is, right? So, what was it about? What was that turning point that you said, "Oh man, you know what? I got to make this change," because you've obviously, from your story, you've done a lot of inward work, because that's where the work is. It's on the inside, right? It's an inner job, is what it is, inside
Yes.
out job.
Yes.
And where at what point did you say, you know what, I got to make a change. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
You know, I'm not going to lie. I can't count the number of times I want to pee on myself. Yes, because I would put it this way. I I've never actually put it this way, But when you're at a place in your life where you are stuck, you might be in a career, it doesn't feel good. You're overly stressed, whatever it is. You're always wanting something different. I wish I had more time. I wish I'm, you know, could be more present with my kids. I wish, you know, what do you call this? That I wasn't always so tired. In many ways, when we start thinking like that, you're stuck in some form or fashion. When I ended up leaving that company I had started with, I had this decision to make, and honestly, I was I was praying on it because I could not answer the simple question of, what do you want, Sheila? What do you want? I had a job opportunity actually land to me. It was made perfect. It looked like it was made for me. Or to do something else. What would something else be? How could I sit there and make money, become a business owner? And I'm spiritual, so I'm going to bring in, God and Jesus in here a little bit. But I think at that moment, it was brought to me, go back to this position and job where all the things that you're doing was made for you, or go down this other path. I didn't know how to make that decision. This I knew, and it felt safe in a way, but I didn't love it. I lost a lot of my peace, joy, passion. There was a lot of things that I had sacrificed in this and lost along the way, and I didn't know how. But I could do this job, and it made me feel accomplished. I know if I could do it, I'll feel accomplished. This other road, I didn't even know what it would entail and involve. And all I knew is I just kept praying on it. And I ended up self-sabotaging the job opportunity when I went to an interview, and I didn't even realize I was doing it until after the fact. So,
How did you self-sabotage it?
well, it was a position that required some travel to meet with entrepreneurs. And they're like, how do you feel about travel or travel? And I said, oh, I hate traffic. I said, I hate traffic. You know what I mean? But the people in the room, the other ones were like, Sheila, you don't have to know everything. What we wanted to see is that if you had strong business acumen, the experience and whatnot, and they had smiles on their face.
Yeah.
But lo and behold, I realized in my journey, I'm extremely analytical, highly intuitive and empathic. And I could feel there's this one person in the room, but it showed it all in her face. But I was still a little naive in my own self-awareness and knowing, and her face was scowl. And she was the one that asked, how do you feel about travel? And I said, I hate traffic. And I think that that was a self-sabotage. She took that to go, she won't make it. She'll complain. There's too much travel, la, la, la. But I discovered that after the fact, and then down this road of entrepreneurship. And so that was one of the first crossroads, because I feel like if you are a highly inspired person, or you're just, you're alive, we've got to do something. The option of not doing anything, the option of just not doing anything. Now, the truth is, I was grieving deeply. Had I realized that, I would have honored myself to give myself more space and time to allow myself to grieve and to get the reprieve or the rest that I needed after, I would probably say, a good 20 years of hustle.
Yeah.
And I still was like demanding, like, no, Sheila, you got to keep moving. You got to keep doing this, all that. Do you see what I'm talking about? I didn't know how to show myself kindness, compassion. I didn't know how to honor the self-care that I needed, and I looked at it from a very negative perspective. And that went on for quite some time. But I'm a very highly aspired, committed woman. So without even realizing, I just kept committing myself to showing up and taking action. And because of that, the journey would open up and certain situations would come that enabled learning and growth. And every time you say, what is that turning point, Joe, it's not just one, it's multiple,
Yeah.
because I hit that one point where I'm like, I've been working this and it's not bearing fruit the way that I had hoped. Like, what is going on? You get to a place of complete despair. That's what it felt like. Complete despair. Like I'm doing this and it's not happening. Like maybe you're just not cut out for this. Like all of the negative beliefs starts to come rain down on you, and it's this feeling of I'm so lost, I don't know what I'm doing, because whatever I thought I knew I was doing is not working and I don't feel good. And then you hit despair. And in that moment, again, you have a decision. You have the power to decide. And that's what I feel like is really important to understand in this journey of change, of discovery, of love, is that we don't really realize that power and innate gift that we have that was given to us to decide. Do I decide to just accept things as they are? Or do I decide that I'm going to figure it out and go for better? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm curious because I know how lonely entrepreneurship gets. I know how difficult it gets. I know the challenges that come with it. And I'll keep it on the eye. There's been plenty of times in my life where I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm going to just throw in the towel. This is just not meant for me. And, something inside of me, turns on and reminds me of why I do what I do, right? And there was plenty of those lonely nights in the beginning, plenty of times where it was just like, you know what, I'm done, I'm giving it up. But I kept reminding myself of, why I'm doing this. I kept reminding myself that I didn't survive 2 overdoses, 6 cans of Narcan to just coast through in life and just give up. No, I was created for more than that. I'm meant to do more with my life. My creator created me to be able to walk and live in my purpose. Um, what what was for you? Um, what was your reason for not giving up? And also, what was some of those beliefs, that those limited beliefs that you had to crack through to build your new belief system?
Um, I know that your journey was hard, Joe, but when you were just sharing it, like, do you see how empowering? I could not stop smiling because I'm witnessing and am in joy of the fact that you had gone through this turbulent past and season in your life. But look at how much you've learned and grown from it.
Mm.
Enough to be here at this point to bring that out in other people, you know? Um, and so, did I just brain fart right now? Because I think I might have forgot your question. I got caught up in your story, and because it's beautiful, it's empowering, and it got me excited. You know what I mean? Do you remember what you asked?
Yeah, so, so I said, like what was it that you held on to
Oh yeah.
that said, you know what, in those difficult times where times got lonely and in the entrepreneur ride and you kind of wanted to give up, what was it that brought you back to say, you know what, no, I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm not going to give up. And what are some of the limited beliefs that you had to crack through to build that new belief system?
Yeah. So it I actually feel like, so all of us have our own journey, right? They say, don't look at anybody else's journey, run your own race. But I feel like if you look at things like that on surface level, you won't see the depth um, of what it really means and that value, so that you can move forward with intention. And I'm
Mhm.
saying this because um, I felt the calling. I was in my career after a decade or so. I felt a calling for more. There's got to be more. If I look back, I think it's because the journey is meant for constant learning and growth. I think in that role, I plateaued. There wasn't anything more for me to learn and grow. So if I stayed there, I'd be stuck. So there's this constant calling. Calling. What is that calling? Because we're meant to do great things, called for more, right? And so that's what happened. I finally just decided to start my own company and business, and then we start moving forward. But I think along the journey, there's going to be things that show up that teaches us what it is that we desire, but there's this almost underlying constant calling, the calling to change, the calling to grow, the calling to learn, the calling to evolve. And I say this because as when I look back, like Joe, I just kept seeing snippets of moments in my life and what I learned. And every time I learned something, I had to go through a process, break down and break through, and then the calling again for more to keep stepping up and showing up. And, you know, when we look back, so some thoughts were, when you hit that wall and it feels like you want to die, you know, I've lost myself. I don't know what to do. Like I can't, like there's nothing more to me. I just want to die. You know what I mean? I can't figure this out. I feel helpless and useless and hopeless. Something happens in that moment that's specific for you. For me, I think it was sitting there and being reminded, like I lost my best friend tragically. And that whole experience, it's like in that moment of despair going, I've had enough. I can't do this anymore. I'm reminded of how valuable life was. I lost my best friend. She lived life like it was her last day. Even now, still models to me what it looks like to show up and to live. And, and because of that memory, in that right time and moment, I found the courage or the confidence to move forward. Like if Sharon was here, she'd be like, "What the frick are you doing, girl?" You know, she'd check me, booty spank my ass and say, "You got to get going," you know, but we did this for each other. And then I learned I don't have that in my life anymore. So maybe that's what I need. I need to find something that's going to support me in a way that she did that got me moving. So I learned. And then the next step happens. You know, I turned around and I was thinking, why do I constantly criticize myself? Like if you listen to the negative thoughts in your mind and head, it's like your inner critic. Mine was so rude, obnoxious. She was abusive. Situations and circumstances. But each one felt like a learning and growing until I got that aha moment to realize my inner critic is she's a beast. Like, how do I shut her up? Because whatever she's doing is bringing me down. And then realizing it forced me to go, what is causing her to yap like that? And why does she keep saying the same things over and over again? And then a person shows up in my life out of the blue and at the right timing to go, there was something that happened to you when you were maybe 10. You know, I'm like, what are you talking about? But all of a sudden, one day I allowed myself to go, why did she say that? Why did somebody say something happened in your childhood or blah, blah, blah? And when I allowed myself to go there, I realized a time where my parents were starting out and trying to build a life here in USA, and they needed help. So there's just me and my sister, and they sent us home back to the Philippines. Yes, I'm Filipino. to to my mom's sister so that they can help take care of us for maybe a year. I think that was the plan, so that they can really get established in their life in here. And I think I was 6. I didn't really speak any of this. But what was so true, what was so clear that I can still hear till this day was that little 6-year-old girl telling me and saying in my head, why do I have to go? Do you not love me enough to let me stay? Am I not important enough that you would just send me away? And like, I know they needed help, but the little girl was always like, no, we need to be a good girl. So we do what our parents tell us. And if we need to go back home, then we need to go back home. But she didn't understand, and it just kept going, I guess I'm not important enough. Maybe you don't love me enough to stay. Had nothing to do with that. It had nothing to do with that. So when you go back and you talk about these turning points, that was catalytic for me. I just started crying because right in an instant, I realized where my sense of unworthiness came from, where I felt like maybe I wasn't, how come I can't receive love? Somebody would say, you look really beautiful today, Sheila. I couldn't even say thank you. I would dismiss it. I'd be like, no, you look beautiful. I would dismiss it. And I remember my mom telling me, Sheila, why can't you just say thank you if somebody gives you a compliment? You know, I'm like, I don't know why. But this is what I'm talking about. When you're on your own and by yourself in those intimate moments, I'm not kidding. I'm like, why can't I just receive that? Why can't I receive a an affirmation, and then learning that affirmation is love and that I needed that, and bringing it down to going, where did that root cause come from? But this is what it's about. And I hate to say this, but it's an ongoing thing, guys. Okay. So if you think that you learned everything and that you want to get to that end of the rainbow, you do. But it's a constant. You get to the end of the rainbow and then you start back again from square one. You go down this little journey until you grow and learn some more. You get to the end of the rainbow and then you go back.
That's right. I always say transformation, it never ends. It's an ongoing process. It continues to go and it continues to go, and you continue to grow as you go with it. And that's the beauty of it, right? It's an amazing because it doesn't end, and it when it ends is when your life ends, and the question is, what's the legacy you're leaving behind?
I love that you said that, Joe. Do you see why I'm sharing? And I want everyone to know, especially those that don't, or how come to the realization of what the journey really means. I mean, I have a speaking title called The Entrepreneurial Journey. Do you know what you said yes to? And I'm thinking, I wish somebody was telling me what I want to be able for every entrepreneur to know, especially when they don't know. So we understand this journey is of change. It's a constant journey of change. Where does it end? If we believe that we are meant to do great things, and each time we see, we've been growing, we've been learning, becoming more.
Mm-hmm.
We're just evolving into that greater version of self. Well, what does she or he look like? When does it end? And you're like, well, what if it just keeps going? Who am I? Who can I possibly be? Now, the only way that I could really almost land this and answer that question about legacy and so forth is I do have to go to a place that's very spiritual. I'm
Right.
reminded that we are made in the image and likeness of God.
Amen. Amen. And it's that's so important for people to pick up. I mean, spirituality is vital in being successful and being the best version of yourself. And spirituality comes in all forms, right? Whether somebody wants to believe it's God, the universe, the infinite intelligence, whatever they believe. But I believe that, God created me to be the best version of myself, to be special, to unlock my fullest potential. And man, I want to do whatever it takes to get there. I want when when my time is up, I want God to meet me at those gates and say, "Man, son, you went above and beyond to live the life that I created you to live." I mean, I knew you were going to be great, but man, did you really, exceed the expectations, something along those lines. I think it's that for me, that's what legacy means to me. Um, and that brings me to something important that I wanted to ask is when we go through these crack through these limited beliefs, core values are uncovered. What are some of the core values that you uncovered that you latch on to when times do get difficult? And this thing called purpose, which is a messy playpen, gets into its messy
Oh,
mode.
messy. I love what you're saying there because, and just to piggyback on that thing with legacy, it's this. It brought me back even when I'm asking, and I think you can relate because in many ways I think we're woven from the same cloth, Joe, but you're unique in who you were created to be, and I am as well. But there's something that is we're on the same page when it comes to that, and it's really going when it asked, "What do you want?" And I said, the one word that showed up was love. I want to love. I want to love what I'm doing. I want to love on others and share my gifts in a way where it's loving, And so when you think about that, whatever it is that you believe, if I was to connect and relate to you with my God or Jesus, is that he is all love. He's not even just love. He's unconditional love. So when I think about it and we're moving forward, how can I evolve and grow in love? How can I grow and share that through in my gifts and how I speak and how I make other people feel, but it's impact. At the end of the day, we can make all the money we want, but when we die, we can't take it with us. But what gets left behind is how you touch and impacted other people's lives. I actually felt like, I feel like when people, like if I were to pass, I think my legacy would be how many people showed up to my wake to be there, because that means I have touched their lives in such a way that they would decide to take their time and energy to be there for me. Does that make sense?
And that's I don't want to be morbid. That's one big funeral because you're making an impact around the world, lady.
Well, I want to, Joe. I want to. And there's moments sometimes where we could feel discouragement or feels like a wall. And I'll tell you, I'm going to be really blunt and candid right now. The biggest wall for me being able to move forward with my purpose, aside from my own stuff, which I can, I have to deal with and overcome, is this thing that we're talking about now, this space. People are just so freaking scared of me. I promise they're going to wet themselves and they don't even know it. They want this. They want this. They want success. They want more. They want to understand. They want to feel good and to feel like they're moving forward in alignment in life, and it feels more easier and in flow. But in order to do that, you got to step into a place where you put on your big girl panties of courage, of commitment, of willingness to want more. You say you want more. You want success. What are you willing to do that? Are you willing to at least have a conversation like this where you can begin to really discover who you are, what's getting in your way? But I promise, even though it feels hard and it's scary, it is the most loving thing you could do for yourself, because you're going to realize and discover that which you did not. And if you don't know what you don't know, then you can't change what you don't know. But once you become aware of it, and awareness is the catalyst of change, I'm going to support you like mad to lean into a decision, but to help you make a decision that aligns with yourself. So reflecting back, this is who you are. What feels right to you? Because there's 20 million roads, there's 20 million ways to cut a cake and tactics, but knowing what makes you tick will help you make better decisions that are aligned to you. And why that's important is because there's so many things in life and in business that we have to do that we don't like or don't want to do or are afraid of, but it makes it easier when you decide with intention and clarity. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Intention and clarity is everything. I mean, those are two huge keys to success. I believe that something else you mentioned about, being able to go out there and really live in your purpose, right, is so important because, man, we were all created to walk and live in our purpose. We were all created with a gift inside of us. It's our duty as spiritual beings living this human experience to go out there and share those gifts with the world. We don't share it, we're being selfish. Whatever your gift is, we all have different gifts. We were all born with different gifts, but it's our duty to bring those gifts out and share them with the world.
It's beautiful. And that's what I'm saying. If you end up being called down the entrepreneurial journey, I think the entrepreneurial journey makes it so acutely aware of what your life journey is that you have to embrace change. You have to. If not, you're going to stay stuck. That you have to be willing to discover yourself and what's holding you back. Or, even you'll discover things about yourself you didn't even know that's going to serve you, and you end up denying it. And
Yeah.
loving, now you talk about the values. It's crazy. So I'm going to touch on my value, but I do want to say this because it's coming very strongly to me in what you said earlier. And that is, we all know that in this life, there is nothing we can control. Do we really know that? There's nothing we can control. So when you really step into that in full acceptance, you're going to stop trying to tell people what to do or control them. The relationships that you have where it's strained, parent to child relationship, I'm trying to do this for you because I love you and you're not listening to me. Da, da, da. Can you get to a place to realize you can't control anybody. You can't make them think, feel, act, or do anything that you want. The only thing you could do is contribute. What you can control is how you think, how you feel, and how you behave. So if you really want change, people say, oh, be the change that you want to be. Until you can walk it, it's not enough to talk, but you got to be willing to step into that place to really want to know your mind, your heart, and what is affecting your behavior. You're going to want to really get to a place where you are completely, kimonoed out, opened, like let the skeletons all out, open that kimono and get to know yourself. Because when you start to change, I'm a witness, this transformation of good and better and positive overflows into my family, my friends, the people that I work with and support in every aspect of my life. And when it came to value, love is one of them. And I define it as a catalyst to everything. The second, I have to read it. Courage is the power to act. Trust, it's an act of faith.
Yes.
Trust is a big thing for me. And energy, natural magnet and connection. So when I define that, these are my values. They are so true. I just got goosebumps all over me and my legs. And I think that when I meet people, they feel this. I have so much energy. It's just good juju. And people get drawn and attracted to it. And I thought,
That's right.
allow it to be a gift. And if I can attract you, now how am I to serve? How can I serve and support you? And this is all the love, the trust. You don't even know, Joe. I meet people, they could feel it. Whether they realize it, they trust and they feel safe and they start telling me things, about what's going on. And the truth is, they're looking for guidance and advice and next step because in some form or fashion, they're stuck, whether they realize it or, whether they realize it or not. So there it is.
Absolutely. Energy attracts like energy. I'm a big believer in that. So Sheila, I'd love for you to share with the audience where they can find you on social, all that good stuff, and what you got going on now.
Thank you. Yes. Realize-yourvision.com is my website. There's an opportunity for you to get in the space and schedule some time with me for free. If this resonates with you, if you're stuck, if you don't feel good and you want clarity and understanding about who you are and where you're at, to be inspired and to know what those next steps look like wherever you're at, I want to invite you to come spend time with me. I promise you're going to have a good time. Realize Your Vision. I'm on Facebook. You can find me there, Instagram, and on LinkedIn. So I hope that if this resonates, I hope to connect. I would love to at least connect with you.
Awesome. Well, that's going to be in the show notes. So, Sheila, a couple of questions I ask all my guests. Number one is, what does the word purpose mean to you?
Purpose to me means living and expressing who you are completely in your life.
Love that. Love that. And who you are and who you're being, right?
Yes. With the little
Snaps.
little those K-pop hearts.
And when you hear the word reforge, what comes to mind?
Oh, so I saw a visual, and it really honed into commitment. Commit to recommit. So when you're reforging your life, it feels like you're at this place where you're at a crossroad and you have a decision to make. And what I say, when you decide or at a place to reforge your life and who you're being, it's committing again to recommit to being more, towards the success that you desire.
I love that. Committing to recommit. That's powerful. So there's somebody out there right now that's watching this episode, listening to it, or maybe they have a friend that's going through it right now, and they don't know how to reforge their life. They don't have the know-how, the whereabouts, who to connect with, anything, any tools for it. What's one tool you could share with the audience that they could use to reforge?
Earlier I ended up joining a program, and it was about movements. And they said, you got to name your movement. Like, what would you name it? Immediately came to me. Stuck sucks. Okay. So if you ever get onto my social media, you're going to hear that a lot, because stuck freaking sucks. And everybody relates to it. It's almost empowering. You want to giggle, but there's so much truth, and you know it, right? You know it. And so I brought that up because when you're talking about recommitment, committing to recommit, reforging the decision that you said yes to more, to greatness. Now you've hit this wall or crossroad and it's hard. And you're like, I don't think I could do this anymore. You're stuck. You're stuck. And so I want to share 3 tips of what you need, especially entrepreneurs, to go from stuck to a place of progress. The first one is, stuck sucks. Okay. The first one is you need clarity. Without clarity, you can't make a decision. The second thing is you need to make a decision. So whether you're overwhelmed, you're distracted, you feel lost, somewhere in that, you got this, your mind all spinning. Somewhere in there is a decision that needs to be made. And we make a ton of decisions every single day. Even like, do I get up right now? Should I brush my teeth? Do I make coffee, or should I start responding to emails? We make a million decisions every day. So you need to make a decision. The last thing is you need support. The support can be next steps, strategies, tactics, and or empathy, encouragement, inspiration, motivation, celebration, and or what I like to call little tough love, and somebody telling you when you're getting in your way. So when you take a moment and really think about it, you want to reforge, you want to recommit, and you're stuck, these are the things that you need. Yes. And hopefully you have somebody in this space you could go to. And if not, you got the shishi.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, stuck sucks, baby.
That sucks. Clarity, decision is so important, man. I'm so glad you shared that, man, because it's so vital to understand how important it is to make a decision, and then support. I mean, you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah.
Saying that you people think, asking for help and vulnerability is weakness. It's such bullshit. It's such a superpower when you have that vulnerability to say,
Yes.
you know what, I don't have all the answers. I need help with this. It'll take you to the next level. So, Sheila, what's something that the audience doesn't know about you that you enjoy doing for fun?
I think most people probably don't know that I'm a 20-year retired dance mom. I love to dance. And I have 2 daughters. So I immediately put them into dancing school at the minute that they could probably shake their tail feathers, 3.5, 4 years old. And I live vicariously through it. I mean, I can't move like the way I used to, but ain't no stopping the little shimmy here and there.
You go, girl. I love it. That's awesome. Sheila, listen, you definitely brought the thunder today.
Yes.
I mean, your energy is incredible. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you so much, Joe, for having me. And I think there was some little blockage going on before the show, but I'm glad that we saw it through, right? I mean,
Yeah, we did.
if there's a reason and an impact we're meant to make, I mean, nothing can hold it back, right?
That's right. That's right. God's got a plan. God always has a plan.
Amen.
Sometimes we have plans and he laughs at them because he's got a bigger one on the other side. So
Right.
love it. But again, thank you so much. And for everybody out there watching, listening, thank y'all for checking it out. Thank y'all for the support. And please don't forget LFSS, like, follow, subscribe, and most importantly, share the episode, because there's somebody out there right now that's struggling, that's looking to reforge their life, and they don't have the tools. And sharing this episode or past episodes can help take their life to the next level. So don't forget to share. Stay productive, stay purposeful, and stay blessed, y'all.
You've been listening to Reforge Your Life with your host, Joe Rivera. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. To learn more about Joe Rivera and how he can help you or your organization reforge your life and regain your place at the top, head on over to withjoerivera.com and follow Joe on all social platforms. The Reforge Your Life podcast was produced by Thrive Loud Productions. Thanks for listening.